Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for May 15th through 21st. This week I read 2 books, I watched 3 shows, I watched 2 movies, and I listened to 1 book. First this week I read Primal Animals. This was an advanced reader's copy and I believe it comes out this week. That would make the most sense because I'm actually on the blog tour for it this week. As the book opens, our protagonist Arlie is being taken to this summer camp by her mother Sam. Apparently Sam went to this summer camp years and years and years ago and she really loved it. It's great for networking. It's basically a lot of college test prep, but then also other activities like horseback riding and archery and swimming and all of those types of things. Arlie hasn't been doing all that well academically, so this should be good for her. However, we find out pretty quickly that she's also terrified of bugs, so spending her summer in a cabin in the woods doesn't really sound like the best idea for somebody with that phobia. But she seems to be putting up a tough front about maybe just immersing herself in bugs and then eventually coming out the other side being okay with them. Once she arrives, from the get-go, things are a little bit weird. People treat her weird, she's got a weird feeling. However, the girl that sleeps in the bunk bed above her is pretty cute, so that is a highlight of her time. I actually did a reading vlog for this book that's going to be posted tomorrow, but my quick thoughts on it is this was really successful at having a creepy atmosphere and then using that throughout the book. If you're looking for something sapphic and creepy and set at a summer camp, this is one to consider. Next, I read a book for my 40 Before 40 challenge, and that is Dawn of the Dead. This one has to do with this woman named Pepper. She works in a cemetery as a tour guide, which is funny because I used to work in a cemetery as a tour guide. Actually, a couple of different cemeteries. I wasn't specific to the cemetery, I just went into those cemeteries on my tours. Anyway, a couple of days before we meet her, she actually tripped on one of these tours and hit her head and woke up in the ER. So when she's showing some senior citizens around and she shows them this mausoleum that belonged to a mob boss, and then he is suddenly in the crowd heckling her, she thinks maybe she hit her head harder than she thought. As she comes to find out, he is in fact a ghost and has some unfinished business and wants her to figure out who murdered him. This is the start in a series, and if I had the rest of them just readily available to me, I would probably continue just because it is such an interesting premise. However, you can definitely tell that this was written back in the early 2000s. There are some certain references and some certain lines that I didn't really enjoy. And I've never read a book by a female author that mentioned the protagonist's breasts as many times as it happened in this book. And seriously, every time she met a new dude, they were checking out her rack and we needed to know about it, and that was infuriating. We actually learned her bra size on the first page of the book. I believe it was 38C if you're curious. She booped boobly writing and some questionable sentences aside, this was actually a lot of fun. On to what I watched this week. We actually finished all of Travel Man. We were somewhere in the 6th season when we started this week and we finished all the way through the 9th. Again, these are British seasons, so they're only 4 to 5 episodes long, but still, that seems like a lot. If you haven't seen my last couple of videos, Travel Man is hosted by Richard Ayoade. He and a random celebrity guest go to a random place throughout Europe that you could conceivably fly to from London for a mini break. With a couple of exceptions. There are a couple of locations that are not in Europe, but those are generally longer episodes, or New York for some reason. I don't think I would want to go on an 8-hour flight for a mini break, but that's just me. As always, this was fun. Something I would recommend for this show, however, is having the captions on because he speaks very, very quickly and he doesn't speak in full words sometimes, so by the time your brain has figured out what he said, you've missed a bunch of the alliteration he's thrown in there, and it's just easier to get everything if you have that secondary source to check. And this is why I capture my videos, because sometimes I talk very quickly and obviously people won't capture everything that I say either because sometimes I also mumble, etc. I mean, I filmed these videos first thing after getting up in the morning, so I'm not always the most coherent. We also finished the last 4 episodes of Our Flag Means Death. I thought we only had 2 left. We actually had 4 left. I didn't know where we left off. And this is lovely, and if there's not going to be more, I'm going to be mad about it. I also randomly found out that not only is Blackbeard an actual historical figure, which I think I knew, or I thought that that was just like a character from stories, but also Stede Bonnet is an actual historical figure, so there you go. I'm also at this point where I can now watch all of the content that people have put out about this show, so if you have any suggestions as to particular videos that I should watch, let me know down below. Pretty much the first thing I did the day after we finished this is watch Jessie Gender's video about Jim specifically and non-binary pirates, and I really enjoyed that because I love everything Jessie Gender does. As a side note, Chad was out and about and somebody else was talking about a trilogy of gay pirate books, and instead of asking them what those books were called, he just told them, hey, have you heard of Our Flag Means Death? Which is good because now that person knows that there is a TV show that that person needs to watch, but now I need to know, what is this trilogy of gay pirate books? Somebody tell me, please. This week I also watched RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 7 All Winners Season. This is a new type of season, and as such it's being given a new format, so if you haven't seen the episode yet and you don't want to be spoiled about that ahead of time, maybe click to the next item on the list. Chapter markers are always down below. In All-Star seasons we've usually had it where the top 2 queens of the week will lip sync battle, and whoever wins for that week and then also gets to vote somebody off. However, in this season, nobody is going home. What is happening is at the end of the runway, RuPaul will come up with the top 2 of the week. Those people will each get a legend star, which are very important, and then whoever wins gets a cash prize and the ability to block somebody for the next week to get a legend star. These stars are very important because the top 4 queens with the amount of stars at the end of the episodes will go on to have a lip sync battle for the crown. I think this is fun. You have to play a whole different type of strategy. None of the queens go home and everybody is so tight that it's just going to be a great season full of a lot of really fun things. In fact, the next episode is going to be Snatch Game because nobody's going home. We don't have to worry about how many people are going to be on Snatch Game. It's already happening and I'm already excited to watch it next week. Or this week, I guess. It's coming up this week, obviously. On to the movies I watched this week. We watched The Adam Project. In this movie, Ryan Reynolds plays a pilot who can fly through time, and he does this hoping to go back to 2018 to fix something. We don't know exactly what it is when we start. However, he ends up in 2020 instead, and he kind of crash lands and has to get some medical attention from his old family homestead, but there he's confronted with his 12-year-old self, who at that point was definitely kind of an asshole. Because of reasons, he ends up having to work with his 12-year-old self to do what he's there to do. I'm not going to wreck it for you. This was actually a lot of fun, and you can tell that the kid that played Ryan Reynolds' younger self actually spent a lot of time getting Ryan Reynolds' mannerisms down. I think you know what I mean by that. If you've ever seen any of his movies, he's very snarky and he's got this very snarky demeanor to him and this quick-witted delivery, and you could tell when you got the first scenes with this kid that, yeah, this is the kid that's playing younger Ryan Reynolds. This had a lot of really funny lines, some great action sequences, some hilarious situations that you would have with your previous self. I thought it was really good. I thought this was a great time travel movie, and there's 2 categories. There's good ones and friggin' terrible ones that I never want to see again, and this was in the first category. Unfortunately, the other movie we watched this week is in the terrible movies section, and that is Cell. This is based on a Stephen King book that I actually read around the time that it was published, so that was, many years ago at this point, so I remember it being about cell phones and suddenly people that are on cell phones at the time of this thing happening all basically turn into murderous zombies, and that's what this is. However, you'd think with the cast in this that this wouldn't be as crappy as it is. I don't know how they roped John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson into such a shit movie, but they did, and I hope they had fun and got paid a lot to do it because this was a bad movie. Even just from the opening, the way that they were putting the credits on the screen in the opening just annoyed the crap out of us. It looked bad. It was just not a great movie. The special effects weren't great. It didn't make a lot of sense at some points. We spent a lot of time just being like, oh, what the hell? And then looking up different people and being like, oh, we know them from other Stephen King things. That's weird. So yeah, absolutely cannot recommend this adaptation, which is funny because Stephen King movies tend to fall into the it was actually good and it was absolute shit. Just like time travel movies, weirdly enough. On to the book I listened to this week. That is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. This is my second of her books, and I'm finding that I do really enjoy her writing. This one is split up between 3 perspective characters. We have one male character who's kind of telling us the history of what happened at this house about 25 years ago, actually 30 to 25 years ago. And then we've got this woman in the present finding out that she's inheriting this house. And then there's another woman who is in France and homeless with her children wanting to get back to England where the house is. As the book unfolds, you get to learn a little bit of what happened in this house. Essentially, this was a very wealthy house. It is a very beautiful, grand house. However, at one point, this character's parents let these other people move into it, and then it slowly morphed into a cult situation. The present-day character finds out that the people that owned this house were in fact her parents, and that's why she's inheriting it, and they actually died in a cult suicide pact when she was about 10 months old, and they left a note saying, "Take care of our daughter." So she was put into the foster care. She knew that she was adopted, and then her 25th birthday, she gets this letter. She obviously starts looking into this and finds out that she had siblings, but nobody knows where they are. I wonder who those other point of view characters could be. What I really loved about this is it is very twisty and turny. It did a very good job of showing us different information at different times and having these situations play out in these 3 different locations really, really well. It's also creepy and atmospheric at times. You feel like an amateur sleuth trying to figure out how these characters are going to come together. I very much enjoyed it. I think I'm going to end up reading everything by this author because there's always extra twists and turns put in there, and I just really appreciate that. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!